That was a great episode. Thanks for sharing your story. Come over here real quick. Let's talk on the side. You are listening to the Lorraine Finity Let's Talk on the Side podcast, and I'm your host, LaGina. Okay, y'all. So thank you so much. Apparently, y'all like the shit I have to say and my little slick mouth side talk on the side. So here we are again with another episode of Let's Talk on the Side with me. And today I want to talk about, are we paying attention to what we are saying? Big question mark, like over my head on this one, because there's a lot of stuff and I'm going to hit on a couple of them. Warning, this episode, we just want to let you know, may trigger you just a bit, contains cursing and adult content. But I got to start with the story. So when I was younger, I was in the kitchen, I think with my brother or something, and we were listening to Ludacris, and we get to the part where he's like, hot fellatio, hot jalapeno, holla walla in yo mouth. And we went in on it. And we did that part. And you just hear my mom like, what? From across the house. And my mom didn't typically like scream at us and do all that kind of stuff. And so we were like, oh, what we say? She's like, what did you say? And we were like, hot fellatio, hot jalapeno, holla walla in yo mouth. And she was like, do you even know what you're saying? And I was like, yeah, like it was hot. It was very hot. And she was like, no, you need to know what you're saying. And this is before like the era of like having a cell phone, a smartphone, fuck a cell phone, but like an actual smartphone with this touch screen and Google or anybody else that wants to pay me for this advertisement at my fingertips. So we had to get a dictionary and we looked up fellatio. After figuring out how to spell fellatio, we looked it up and we realized it was a form of oral sex, specifically dick sucking. And we were like, oh, okay, well, all right. Oh, and there's that song, Limp Bizkit, that came out, I think in like 99, 98, 99 or something. And it's called Nookie. And so the lyric, I did it all for the nookie. The what? The nookie. And you can take that cookie and stick it up your what? So that whole lyric, I don't think I even know what it means now. Like I know nookie, we're talking about sex and sexual things. But what is the cookie? And so these are things even, at 35, hearing this over 20 something years ago, not even analyzing it through that span of time. Like I know what nookie is. I probably figured it out during that song. And even the Ludacris song, I think it came out in the early 2000s, like 2000, 2001. It's like you just say things because they have this rhythmic value to them. And, one of my ex-favorite rappers, he even like lyrically just would take you to a whole nother level that would make you think about it. So these lyrics, they really play a role in this like code language type thing or word manipulation or I don't know, like air bending, like word bending or something. So yeah, there's that one too, is the nookie and the cookie from the Limp Bizkit song. It's just crazy. So those are those like mindful moments that I wonder if like we're all having all the time. And it's hard to always be mindful of the things you say because you pick up stuff along the way, listening to music, listening to the news, seeing it in movies, hearing it in passing, pseudo listening, all this stuff. And so, yeah, I don't even know, but I keep hearing two things come up throughout my life that I'm like, ooh, those probably aren't, those are two that shouldn't be used, right? One of them is to call a spade a spade. What's the first thing you think about when you hear somebody say, just call a spade a spade? I mean, when I was in college, I probably just thought we were talking about, spades, the card game, because spades are the almost like a run of jokers and they each have their own value in a spades game. 4 people play, you've got teams, you sit across from your teammate, you're trying to get books. Y'all, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go YouTube it. And I'm pretty good at spades too. And so I'd be like, oh yeah, value proposition. You calling a spade, so it's valuable. And that is one of the meanings. It really is. But calling a spade actually started off a little simpler than that, right? Because I think of a deck of cards. And then as I get older, I'm thinking like a racial slur or something. But a spade was actually a garden tool. And the expression like kind of emerged later from the garden tool to call a spade a bloody stool. Okay. And the early usage of the word spade, quote unquote, had nothing to do with race or skin color, apparently. And then we move into after World War I. W.E.D. Du Bois comes back from the war, and he's a scholar and he's a civil rights activist and all this stuff. And he writes the really famous editorial Returning Soldier about the struggles of a Black man, African-American Black man, coming back from the war. And one of the excerpts in it says, "We stand against to look America square in the face and call a spade a spade. We sing this country of ours, despite all its better souls have done and dreamed, is yet a shameful land." And so that was like one of the first times that, you know, this whole spade a spade came to us here in the US. And about 1920 is when the Harlem Renaissance started. The word spade started being a code for Black people. And there's all these other things around it. During the Harlem Renaissance, a novel called The Home of Harlem comes out. Jack is such a fool, spade, you know, the code for Black. And then as it keeps evolving and changing and moving with the times, the duality of the word gets even stronger because, like I said, a spade in a card deck is a very, very, very powerful card, especially when you have like the ace of spades. So people started writing things, novels, poems, books, and they talk about spades. And some of it, you know, like Black as the ace of spades is, you know, one of those things. And it's a powerful moment. But spade also starts referring to a dark chocolate Black person in a negative way. So when I'm thinking about this, I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, so is it a bad thing to say, is a spade or call a spade, or is it a good thing? And I think that this is one of those times where how it makes you feel if somebody else calls it to you is where you should stand on it. I don't feel like that about everything, but this in particular, I would not personally want somebody calling me a spade. So I avoid as much using that phrase. And I remember we were recording an episode in season 1 with Zenobia. And I said that. I was like, yeah, just, you know, yeah, it's really important. Just call a spade a spade. And I was like, ooh. And so in my head, I know one of the definitions is just to say what it is. Tell it like it is. A spade is a spade. But I also know like those negative connotations of the word. So it's like this constant like pulling duality. Like, do I say it? Is it racist? Is it not racist? So rule of thumb. And I wonder if rule of thumb, I wonder what that comes from too. See, there's all these phrases we use that like, where does it come from? What does it actually mean? But my rule of thumb for this one is if I don't want it to be used toward me, I just try not to use it, especially when it has so many mixed meanings and no one group actually holds the rights to that word and what it means and how it makes people feel. So in this case, I just urge people to approach that phrase, calling a spade, with a lot of caution, because although it started someplace and it moved to someplace and it is where it is now, you never know what era or what group of people or what body somebody is approaching that phrase from. And that goes with a lot of things. I think it's important to be in line with the people that you're talking to and around so that you can have transparent conversations. But just in general, out in the world, when you're talking to people and everything else, like there's other ways to say it. Just say what you mean, motherfucker, versus saying call a spade a spade. Because I guess it's kind of code language, and code language can get pretty damn complicated.
You are listening to the LRI Infinity Let's Talk podcast. That's LRI Let's Talk on Instagram and Facebook.
And the other one that I have that always comes up is butthurt. Oh, don't get butthurt about it. Oh, that's stupid. You're being butthurt. All that. And I'm like, ooh, what does that mean? Oh, that sounds kind of odd. That sounds like it could be an insult. I've worked in gay bars, and my community of people are my friends, and whatever my friend's plight is mine. So that means women, gays, blacks, handy capable, everybody and anybody. Like if you're a human and you're trying to do good, I'm fucking with you. And so I'm always like 360 trying to think about like, oh, what does that mean? What does that mean? And avoid using offensive language unless I'm just being an asshole and that's what I'm doing. But butthurt. And I'm like, what does that mean? What's the first thing you think about when you hear butthurt? And I was like, yeah, what's the first thing I think about? And I was like, no, I don't want to think anything. I'm about to look it up. So I went and I used my handy dandy search engine. Since nobody's paying me yet to say what search engine, it's a search engine, my computer. And I looked up the meaning of butthurt. And, the first thing that comes up is it originates from spanking, the act of striking the buttocks of another person. And, it's a form of punishment for kids. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And, people say don't get butthurt when you're talking about like somebody was clowning on you. You get in your feelings because they got you. And then somebody's like, don't get butthurt about it. You're all right. Or stop being butthurt when somebody's being sensitive and stuff. And then when you think about like why you said it and what it means, I'm like, damn, like that could go real deep. And from a feminist standpoint, butthurt is talking about like, and I looked this up, it's talking about like anal rape and like a man having control over a woman and anally raping her. And so then it rolls into this like, don't get butthurt, i.e. don't be emotional, don't be weak, blah, 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 blah. And then when you're talking about non-heteronormalities and we go into homosexuality and gay men having anal sex, like nobody wants to think about the way they have sex in a violent way. And that's including all types of rape. And so it turns into this homophobic statement as well. So I just am like, yeah, but hurt's another one. Like, avoid it. I don't say it. Obviously, I've said it a lot on this podcast, but in general, being mindful of the things that you say, when you say them, and why you say them. Okay, so on top of all of those, the songs, the connotations with different phrases over time and how that evolves with women and sexuality and all that. There's always the one that I remember from college, which is, I'm in a sorority, and our sorority, like our nickname is the Reds. We're the Reds. So I thought it would be a good idea to have like a red light special party. And I heard it from the song, I'll be your red light special all through the night. And it didn't really occur to me what we were talking about. Like even in the song, like red light special, now we know. Like you got to look up those lyrics and know that like red light is a district in Amsterdam where when the light is on, boop, it's the red light special, like hookers, all this kind of stuff. For me, I thought I was just being really like smart and calling a party the red light special because it was the Reds. And, it's special to party with this, I guess. I don't know what I was going for. And I remember my college advisor, she signed off on the party and she was like, ooh. And I was like, what? And that's the first time I realized, even with that song and those lyrics and the red light district in Amsterdam. And so all of that summed up, there's just always a thought to be had about things that you say, where they come from, what you mean by them, and what people may perceive them to mean. It's nuts. This one spins around in my head a lot, and I actually wrote it down for an idea for one of the episodes because I was talking to a friend and she said something and I was like, ooh, I think I think that's one of those ones. She's like, oh, for real? I was like, yeah, it's one of those. And I know we're in the year 2020, but even prior to that, like I think we were moving into this climate of the cancel culture and the climate of being more aware of who and what is going on and who you're around and what you say and why you're saying it. And so I think this topic is so appropriate because of that. So yeah, I want to know y'all's opinions on it. Are you paying attention to what you're saying? Y'all, that's all I have. I just want to know all the weird racist and biased and sexist statements that we accidentally say. Do we know that we're doing it? Are we aware? Are we listening to the things we say? Are we watching, paying attention to how people are reacting? Because sometimes I'll say something and I see how somebody reacts and I'm like, did I mean it like that? And does it warrant me going back and giving an explanation? Or was it kind of just one of those things like, I said what the fuck I said, and we're going to keep it moving? And walking through the world trying to be a good human, once again, is not easy. All right, y'all. So thanks once again for listening. I love to hear your opinions. People have been texting me about the dating app episode. So let me know what you're thinking. I love to hear it. I love getting into dialogue about things and having open, honest conversations. I think it's going to be one of the great equalizers when people can listen and understand how other people feel. And you know what? I'm going to go out on one of my favorite quotes by the Miss Lauryn Hill. Miscommunication leads to complication. Miscommunication leads to complication. I think that's the wrong beat. All good. So make sure that you're communicating clearly with the people that you talk to so that the conversations can be open and honest and can be progressively forward to this movement and this love that we're trying to get to in 2020 and beyond. All right, y'all. Thanks for listening. You just listened to Let's Talk on the Side. Until next time. Bye.
Let's talk.